think we're live. Hey. Hi. Happy Beltaine. Blessed Beltaine to you all. I haven't done a live stream in a long time. I've been busy sewing masks. I have made around 400, and the majority of those have gone to my nurse friend who works in the emergency department of a local hospital and they still don't have official PPE. They're only using the masks that I've made, and they're out of gowns, so they're using rain ponchos and all kinds of stuff like that. So, blessed Beltane in the middle of this global crisis. And, if you think about the energy of Beltane, we are in the middle of a rebirthing. This is an initiatory cycle that we're experiencing. We're seeing the death of some of the old ways and the rebirth of some even older ways and the birth of new ways technologically and all kinds of stuff. So I thought, since I haven't been streaming for a long time, that I would jump on today and talk about Beltane, and hang around because I'm going to give you the secret of an indoor maypole. Yes, Mother Drum, we did at least 3 indoor maypoles for Beltane, and I will tell you how to do that if you hang around for a little bit. So I first would like to offer you a smoke cleanse. Let me get my fat face out of here. My big face. When I had a functioning website, when you clicked on it, you would get my big face on the screen. So kind of cracks me up. Anyway, here's a smoke cleanse. Offering you some sage. And if you didn't know, sage has been scientifically proven to clear bacteria and viruses and nasty things out of the air. So I offer this to you. Breathe deep. May your breath be free and deep, and the air around you be clean and clear. I also want to take a moment to send my thoughts in the direction of people that have lost someone in this pandemic. I've been reading stories from nurses in the ICUs, and it's absolutely terrifying, and it's horrifying, and it's tragic, and I feel so sheltered from it in Ohio here. And I am fortunate that I don't know anyone firsthand. I know people firsthand who have lost someone firsthand, but I firsthand have not. And I feel so very, very fortunate. And we are in no way done with this. We are in the place of looking at what we can reclaim of our former normal lives, without completely letting go of any safeguards. Sorry, I'm still arranging things. I think it's important that we start to reclaim closeness with families, but still not let go of every safeguard that we've put in place. I think this is going to be a both and thing where we can start connecting more closely with people that we're close to, that we know have been doing the measures the way they should, and still continuing to be smart about it and wear masks and wash hands and clean doorknobs and all of that stuff to keep those close to us safe. And but we have to get away from all or nothing thinking, where we're keeping all the safeguards in place and then suddenly, nope, we're okay, and we drop them all and hang out with people not knowing where they've been. So it's a continuum. We're taking a step along the way and looking at who we can add back into our inner circles while we still keep our safeguards in place. So there's your sage cleanse. I'm going to do a salt blessing and then do an offering. I'll try to contain it somewhat so I don't smoke myself out. As you know, I like to lay down the Or Mastering Fog. So there is frankincense in honor of the god, and myrrh in honor of the goddess. And as ever, just the smell. I am now in ritual space just from the smells. Yay, it's lovely. Ooh, I don't have much water left, so if I start hacking from this smoke, I'm going to have to bail out. Oh, hi, Georgia. Hi, welcome, and blessed Beltane to you too, dear. Um, it's a gray day. It's a typically Northeast Ohio day in that it's gray, it's rainy. Um, I think it's only going to be in the upper 40s or low 50s today, but the buds are opening on the dogwood. I'm looking at it's loaded with blossoms this year. The buds in previous years, recent years, we've only had, two or three little buds. Um, and this year it seems to be loaded. So that's really nice. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. Gonna, oh, for heaven's sake. Grab that. Thank you. Make myself a little bit bigger here. So, Beltane, second highest holiday of our year, the polar opposite of Samhain, which is the highest holiday, the most powerful holiday. I mean, they each have their own power. On the wheel of the year, nothing takes precedence over anything else. But these two poles, Samhain and Beltane, really deal with the critical turning points of life and death, I guess you would say. Samhain is the life in death part because it is a circle. Every part contains the other parts. And life in death is that while the fields are dying and, the fruits have stopped, the fruiting has stopped, and the fields are fallow and dying, we're plowing under those dead crops in order to compost for the next year. And we have the seeds. What we've harvested is the seed of the growth in spring. So that is the life in death. At Beltane, we're at death in life. So we see life springing out all around us. And that life is springing from the death of the previous year. It's springing from the compost and the dead leaves and those seeds, which represented the death of the fruit. And I was thinking about this, that the birth of the death of the seed is the birth of the plant, and the death of the plant is the birth of the fruit, and the death of the fruit is the birth of the seed. So we go through this, planting and flowering and fruiting and this endless cycle, and each contains the others. So Beltane is we're watching the greening in our woods. We have, here, I'm going to share this with you. Let's see. Back in the woods, we have beech trees that now at this time of the year have kind of like really pale yellow or blonde leaves on them, and they don't let go of these leaves. They dry out in the fall, but the trees don't let go of the leaves until they start to bud. And let me see if I can you can just on the left side there see a little bit of the leaves. I can't pull. Yes, I can. So back there in the woods, the light color that you see is a beech tree that still has leaves on it, and they're going to let go soon. And right there, here, let me make this easier for you. Oh, for God's sake, I want you to grab that thing. Thank you for coming along on my nightmare here. Oh, okay. There. You're looking at this through a screen, so it's not ideal, but right in the middle there is the dogwood tree. And you see a couple of little stones down in the bottom right. Those are gravestones for two of our kitties, our two kitties that found their forever homes out in the woods. You know what? My Streamlabs is just being a dick today. Which, if you got to be a dick, I guess Beltane is a great time to be a dick. All right. Come back. Okay. Well, was that worth it? Who knows? But live streaming. Woohoo. All right. So anyway, Beltane is the greening of the earth, and if we look at the dance between Earth Mother and Sky Father, Sun Father, this is when the lover, the bride and the bridegroom emerge, where um, his warm gaze starts to soften her up and she puts on her finery. You know, you think about getting all dressed up in order to attract the other, and she puts on her flowers and bedecks herself in order to attract him, and his the warmth, you know, that he's showering on her with his regard and his passion is waking her up. And I mean, it's all so sexy, just so sexy. So I got some really strange looks at a Beltane once, where they everybody got together and drew parts out of a hat. So you would draw, you know, you're going to call a quarter, you're going to do something, and I drew offering a libation, and so you know I blessed the wine and offered it to the goddess and the god and said, you know, may it make you drunk and lusty for your lover, and poured it out on the ground. Everybody was like, oh, and I thought, really? I mean, this is what we do at Beltane, right? We drink wine and we get all drunk and lusty. It's lovely. Um, Central Michigan, Georgia, I see having a bit of sun. That's nice. Enjoy it while you can. I know it's been raining nonstop. And Michelle, hi. Thank you so much for streaming today. Yes, yes. Well, the replay, you get to see my indoor maypole. I'm not used to having people here live. I need to get used to live streaming. My plans for the lockdown were so very different. You know, when we went in, I thought, I want to be a daily presence here. I want to be live streaming. I want to be a touchstone for you guys. And then the call for masks came, and all of that went out the door. So, you know, best laid plans. But I will also tell you that I am currently producing a couple more videos to add to the Art of Ritual playlist. So I shot one on casting the circle, and I shot one on calling the quarters. So those will be going up. Just lit my candle in sage. Yay, Georgia, blessed be. Ugh. There's a special feeling, you know? It's like growing up Christian, that you had that special feeling on like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and Easter morning, and, you know, and I've been pagan for a long enough time now that I feel those special feelings on these days as well. And I wanted to say something about um, converting, you know, converting your Christian holidays to paganism, and that this, as in everything that I talk to you about, is up to you individually. And Ostara at the equinox is a wonderful thing. And I do my big ritual on Easter Sunday. And the reason is that um, there's a vibe when you've got a whole lot of the planet focused on one thing at a time and focused on resurrection and the revival of spring and all this. You can take advantage of that energy, whether it's part of your, you know, spiritual belief system or not. You can take advantage of that energy. I remember when Princess Diana died, and somebody, a friend of mine, was having a gathering on the day of her funeral. And I didn't go because I wanted to stay home and do ritual to take advantage of a day when, like, a whole huge chunk of the planet were focused on the name Diana. So I took advantage of that. So again, you know, being a witch is kind of an opportunist. It's kind of opportunistic. And there's something to be said for taking advantage of the energies that are available at the time and making them work for you. You know, when we step into ritual space and into the magical realm, time is irrelevant. We're in the quantum, what do I want to say? Quantum environment there. You know, we always are, but we don't think in a quantum way. But when you step into ritual, you're in the quantum space, and time and space become irrelevant. So, yes, exactly. That was why the Christians appropriated pagan holy days. So these are our holy days, that have been appropriated. Now, as in the case of Easter, that is still according to a lunar calendar, which is the old Jewish calendar. And so, that's very pagan as well. It was a lunar calendar before, um, the Romans came along. Whoever, I don't know my history of calendars, but the oldest calendars were lunar calendars. So taking advantage of Easter Sunday is stepping into that lunar calendar, which is thoroughly pagan at its roots, as is everything on the planet. The planet is pagan. They say everybody's pagan on Earth Day. Every earthling is pagan before they overlay all that stuff on it. So, Georgia, and I know Michelle said she was having to work. But Georgia, hey, it's you and me. Got any questions? Let's have a conversation. Um, so, Beltane traditions, we put out things for the fairies on Beltane Eve, put out some whiskey, put out something yummy, some fruit, whatever you have to offer. Um, the offerings that are appropriate to the receiver are wonderful, but the offering also has a lot of intention behind it. So even if it's something that's not really consumable by the animals out there, if you're offering something valuable, it's sort of the value of what you're offering, has a lot of power to it. So I usually put out some whiskey or some form of alcohol because it's the fairies, don't you know? Um, and I will put some food out. And in happier days, we had friends that would do a maypole in their backyard, and I've got pictures of that. And actually, I have some pictures I can share with you of of my indoor maypole. I will do that. It'll take a little bit of fiddling, but that's the main symbol of Beltane and May Day is the maypole, and and I'll pause here for a second because Georgia, yeah, pandemic feels like we're stuck between the world. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. It's like, we're safe at home. Our lifestyle hasn't changed that much because we're very, very much homebodies anyway. Um, and I've been sewing and doing that kind of stuff. So, we stay home. Our lifestyle isn't that different except for the level of alert that we're on. And, it's like my husband and I trade who's going to the store that week. We go very early in the morning when the store is clean and practically empty. And then we come home, and whoever went to the store goes straight to the shower, and their clothes go into the laundry, and everything else gets brought in and wiped down. And then it's like, oh, we made it through. We're safe, So that part is the strange part for us. And as far as going back to normal, I hope we don't ever go back to 100% what was normal before, because it wasn't a normal way for animals to live and for beings to live. We certainly are going to be keeping ourselves safer than we ever did. People are learning how to fucking wash hands. And here's a thing, too. I saw something that was talking about how many more men have died than women of COVID-19, and saying, they're not really sure why, but I have a couple guesses that I'd like to contribute. And one of them I read said that women wash hands more, which that may be true, but I tend to think it's because more men have undiagnosed and untreated underlying conditions. And that's what puts you at high risk, is an underlying condition like heart disease or diabetes or, respiratory illnesses, asthma, or high blood pressure, things like that. And that's because men don't go to the doctor. I've partnered with enough men in my life to know they don't fucking go to the doctor unless a woman makes them go, the majority of them. It's an oddity of a man who really is on top of his health and proactively goes to a doctor to make sure everything's okay. Most men, in my experience, avoid it like the plague, even if they have the plague. So I think that we're just seeing a lot of untreated men. And, it's also a reality that how many, especially in the US, how many don't have access to adequate health care. So that's a factor as well. But I just think that we're seeing a lot of men with underlying conditions that haven't done anything to get them treated. So, I don't know that we will go back entirely to normal. I think that we've watched the landscape of how we do business change. If you go back and check out my video on Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn transiting into Aquarius, and I said that Saturn representing the structure of how we go about business is going to radically change, and it has changed through technology, and it has changed because of a humanitarian purpose in keeping people safe. And all of those things, I mean, it's exquisite. This is a great time to be an astrologer when you see a heavy planet transit into a new sign like that, and it's just like to the letter what it's said to be. So watching that landscape change has been a miraculous thing. It's been amazing. And it's also true that we get into our comfort zones and we get into complacency. And here's how we go about things. And we assume that it's the best way to do things. And we don't change it because it's a pain in the ass to change the way we do things. It's a big pain in the ass. So it took something cataclysmic like this to push us to the point of using the technology that we already have in the ways that we can. And so it's an amazing thing to watch. And at Beltane now, if you tie these energies together, you're looking at the flowering, at new shoots coming up. We have this foundation of technology that's been there since the early 90s and been accessible really since the late 80s. I worked at a for a doctor's office in the mid 80s, and that was the first place that I connected to the internet. And oh my God, talk about a pain in the ass. The administrator, I was the one that I was their transcriptionist, and I took care of the computers. And I would he'd come into work and he'd say, we've got this thing set up. It's called a modem, and you've got to dial into this thing. And I would dial in and have the IT guys on the phone, and it wouldn't connect. And it was check the baud rate and check this all the it was just the most rudimentary thing, and we never did get it to work. But it was what I was trying to dial into was a database of medical texts and papers and things, a medical library for the doctors to access, and we could never quite get it connected. But that was my first introduction to the internet, and that had to have been 1987 and 86 or 87. And then in the early 90s, my ex-husband worked in IT for a bank and brought home a laptop. It was an IBM laptop. It was this thick. It was a chunk, and kind of too heavy to sit on your lap, and brought that home one time, unplugged the phone, plugged it in, brought up AOL's bulletin boards, because it was all bulletin boards then. And there was a pagan bulletin board, and it was like, oh my God. And the first thing I did was reach for the phone to call my best friend and say, hey, guess what? And he's like, I can't do that. We only have one phone line. So the next day we had two phone lines. And then it was the era of two phone lines. So you could be online and on the phone at the same time. Crazy shit. And so here we are. We've got this foundation of technology that has been underlying things, and really has, all of our business doing is rooted in this. And I've watched older relatives fight having a bank card and fight doing their banking online. And they're like, I'm not going to put all my, and it's like, excuse me, your stuff is already online. You're just the only one that can't access it. So, there's a lot of resistance. And now, because of this, we're seeing more growth and a flowering into its potential. Here is what we can do with this technology. And, so many memes going across about oh God, now I just totally lost my thought. About how many jobs we don't have to do the jobs the way we've been doing them. The way we structure our workplace and what we demand of our employees isn't necessarily the best way to do things. And George, I'm reading your comment. Our immune systems haven't been studied because our reproductive cycles make it too complicated for male scientists. Yeah, true. True. The first breast cancer studies were done on men. Yeah, all kinds of stuff that you can. It really is amazing. So, and we're also watching a lot of death happening. We're watching the slow, painful death of a democracy currently. I'm happy to see that primaries are actually going off and going off fairly because I'm seeing Republicans being defeated. So that gives me hope. I still do not hold out hope that we will have a fair and free election in November. I'll believe that when I see it. Planning on voting blue, voting my ass off, but I'll believe it when I see it. They're not going to go without a fight, is what I'm getting. Anyhow, okay. So what else can I talk about? Oh, okay. So Maypole. I'm back to Beltaine. Back to Beltaine. The Maypole. Beltaine is a fertility rite. If Samhain is kind of a burial rite, Samhain or Beltane is a fertility rite, and you know you hear about all the ancient fertility gods and everything. Well, what is life but sex and death? Sex and death are the two poles of life, and this is the sex end. Samhain is the death end. So, what is that Maypole? Golly, imagine what would an erect pole symbolize? I wonder. And all of the symbolism that goes with it, like at the top where the ribbons are attached is a crown of flowers. So think about this round thing with flowers at the top of this erect pole. Gosh, what does that bring to mind? Um, this is, the term deflowering, the deflowering of a virgin. And by the way, the term virgin, way back when, just meant a woman who was unmarried, a woman unto herself. It didn't have anything to do with sex. It had to do with whether she was in a committed marriage or not. So we've got this poll, and I remember, I have these things kind of occur to me, whether they come from something I've read that's just bubbling up to the surface, or whether they come from, spirit is always an open question. Um, Although my teacher in Tibetan Buddhism, Premadasara, told me once when I was talking about kind of arguing with the whole lineage tradition that you have to be in a lineage to a lama down, this male lineage. Um, she said that the feminine lineage is called direct lineage, that women carry within them the Shakti, and the men have to kind of plug into that wisdom through a woman, but the woman's lineage is direct. So, that sort of validates all the things that have come through to me. And all the maypoles that I ever did were um, multicolored ribbons, rainbow ribbons, and really beautiful looking. And I remember having the realization that we've got this pole, and that the original ribbons were red and white, that the red represents the blood of the womb, the white represents the fertile part of a woman's cycle, the lubricant, also the semen, and the entwining of the red and white is what brings life. And that dancing the maypole, the red ribbons would be going counterclockwise and the white ribbons would be going clockwise, the solar direction, and the red would be going moonwise. So if you want to do, full on fertility rite with a maypole, that would be the way I'd like to do it. And one of the things I've always kind of found disturbing, although it is contagious magic, I guess, is children dancing the maypole, that they'd send the kids out. Oh, this is a kid's thing. And it's like, holy shit, is it ever not? This is really, but again, contagious magic because they're children, and fertility magic is about pregnancy and making people fertile. So um, so yeah, the maypoles that we've done at Mother Drum, and let me see if I can pull up some stuff here. How will I? All right, I got to move my that to there, and then I got to go here to my uh, 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 altars and archetypes, and then I got to go here, and then I got to go back here, and I got to do my right monitor, and then we go here and here. Come on. And why is it not okay, it's not showing my monitor. Ah, that's why. There, looky what you can see. This is a mother drum maypole. On a table, you see, this was the first one we ever did, I do believe. Could have been, no, this was, I think, the third one that we did. And I had it set up ahead of time. The first one we did, everybody tied their ribbons on, and we had to raise the pole, I think. And now I think I'm wrong. I think this was the first one with the rainbow, because I remember. So this thing here is from a carpet company. You go to a carpet store and you ask for one of their cores. They will give it to you for free. It is really heavy, heavy, heavy duty cardboard, and it is hollow. So how do we get it on the table here? I actually have photographs of that too, and I went looking for them and I couldn't find them. Let me see if I've got another. There's the blue flowers at the top and the blue lights. I love blue. Oh, henna. Okay. Do I have any more? Nope. Okay, whoops, 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 whoops. Mother drum. All right. Let me rearrange things back. Hi. I'm back. Okay. So that maypole, the first one we ever did, was really, really an amazing thing. Okay, I'm going to show you again. It went off without a hitch. Oh, farts. Arts and farces, as they say. Hold the fucking bus. So now you can see my Streamlabs. Great. Let's go over here. And now you should be able, there. There's a close-up of that maypole after the weaving. Isn't that amazing? I mean, just frickin' amazing. And it's so that this is one of those things where, hold up. Okay. Where you find out both how easy it is to explain something and how difficult. Hi, Mary. Hi, good to see you. So when you're doing a maypole, if you've never done one before, the dance of it is like square dancing, grand, right, and left. And you have to have an even number of people or it doesn't work. You have, you count them off by ones and twos. All the ones face one way, all the twos face the other way. And then the way I explain it to people, and like I said, it's such a very simple dance, but I think people get too much in their heads. So I try to explain it in terms of the body. And I will say, you start by passing right shoulders with someone, and then you pass left shoulders with the next person. So you're weaving in and out. And so the ribbons go over and under, and you end up with that incredible weave at the end. And I've been in a lot of maypoles where, people were dropping out and coming back in, and it gets all messed up, and then it straightens itself out for a while, and then somebody fucks up, and then, it's hilarious. And it's like I say when I'm leading Dances of Universal Peace, it's a microcosm. It's like life. The dance is moving. You have to negotiate things on the spot and keep moving. You can't stop the dance. It's going to go on without you. And you just have to keep weaving in and out in your part of the dance and hold down your part and do your best and all that kind of stuff. We did a Beltane once where we were out at some friend's property. They had the nice little farm, and we had the men prepping the pole. The women dug the hole, and we blessed the hole and put, all kinds of magical things in it. And then we had the pole. And the men were out drumming and blessing the pole and all that. And the women were in the barn, and we started a chant and drumming and a dance. And we danced out of the barn and we danced around the men, and they were only supposed to raise that pole when the pole was ready to be raised. So we danced, and we had a lot of belly dancers in the group, and it was amazing, and it was sexy as all get out. And then the men raised the pole, put it in the hole. You get like split logs is the best thing. You put the pole down in the hole, and I can't remember what the ratio is, but you have to make sure that there's enough, the hole is deep enough to hold the length of the pole and the weight of it. But that goes down in the hole, and then you shim it in like with the split logs and make sure it's nice and steady. But before that, and you have to kind of think backwards before you raise that maypole, because I've also watched people raise a maypole and go, shit, we didn't put the ribbons on. So you have to attach the crown to the top. And if you go to a craft store, you can buy those woven wreaths. They're like grapevine woven wreaths, and they make really great maypole toppers. You can like cut crossways. If you've got a maypole that's this big around, you can cut kerfs across the top, and then you can thread a wire across the crown both ways and seat that down in. I've seen people do it where it just sort of sits on top, or you can, wire and wrap it around. But I find that if you cut this way, and then the wire that's going across the wreath can actually sit down in those grooves, it holds it nice and steady. And then everybody attaches their ribbon. You should make sure the length of the pole you have and tell people how much ribbon to bring. It should be at least the length of the pole, maybe a third again longer. And of course, you're going to have people that have shorter ribbon, but you need to tell people at least this much ribbon so that you can have a good weave before people start running out. Let's see. What else? You can do things like put seeds into the hole before the pole goes in, seeds and maybe a layer of dirt before the pole goes in. You can put things that you want to compost and let go of. You can put offerings down in there. You can put sage and incense down in there. You can pour, wine or whiskey into the hole. You can do whatever makes sense to you. This is where you get really creative with it. Sorry, I keep messing with my sleeves. I'm both hot and cold. I'm going to open my window a little bit here. I hear the birds. And I'm going to have to go get some water pretty soon here. Anyway, a lot of things you can do. And then I prefer having recorded music. If you don't have live drummers, live drummers are the best if you're going to dance a maypole. Second best to me is to have recorded music, because it's very difficult to dance the maypole and keep singing. It's a lot of activity, and people run out of breath and everything, and it's much better in my mind to be able to concentrate on the dancing and the weaving rather than singing and chanting. I'm looking through my photos here to see if I have any other. Okay, I don't have any other maypole pictures. I need to go hunting. I hunted a little bit because I do have pictures of the maypole before the table is dressed, so you can see how it's done. done. I have to go get some water. Crap. Okay, talk amongst yourselves, Mary and Georgia. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, so I was just asking my son. I think it's Discord, the platform where you can do live voice chats, because I mean, I like seeing your comments here, but when I'm talking and looking at the camera, I don't necessarily see them come up. Yes, it does sound like fun. And I want to have a conversation live. I want to hear your voices. I'll work on that, as much as I can work on it while I'm still making masks. My mask making has really subsided in the last couple weeks, um, because I'm burning out. And now I'm getting cold. I'm kind of burning out. For a while there, it was such a pressing need, and I was kind of frantically making masks and cranking them out. And then I just got to a place of, oh God, I'm tired of making masks and I'm burning out, but I still go every day and do something. So, in Michigan, are you both in Michigan? Son of a gun. I have relatives in Michigan. I have a niece in Grand Rapids who just had a baby last month. No, not last month, in March. Wow, April is gone, you guys. I have been seeing these things also. I also have a relative in Lansing. And bless you for making masks, Mary. See, I opened the window. Here's another thing that tells me it's Beltaine. Allergies. Um, anyway, what was I saying? Oh, that we are all going through this collective weirdness with time. That March seemed like it took forever, and then April was over in a flash, and seeing that we're all kind of experiencing that the same way. And it's really interesting. And I can't wait to start seeing what people's insights into that are. And I think March, we were all in shock mode. We were in present moment mode. And things were unfolding and we were glued to our TVs, and it was just, it seemed like it took so long. And then April, we were going about our business. And I think everything became about food in April for me. What are we cooking today? Let's cook. Let's go, So it's been really, really interesting. Um, so anyway, we were going back to Beltane, um, and talking about the Maypole. Oh, I want to tell you, there was, this is a cautionary tale, a cautionary Beltane tale. There was a couple that I knew back in the 90s, in the early 90s, and um, they had like 5 miscarriages, and she had gone through cervical cancer. Hold on, because now it's cold. And they were trying to get pregnant. She had cleared cervical cancer, and they were trying to have a baby. And so for Ostara, my friends that owned this land uh, were blessing the land. This was like the first ritual we had on this land. And so they dug a fire pit, and we set it up to where it was like a nest. There was, the tent of wood for the first bonfire was built, and under that was this nest. And the women went into the barn, and we did a ritual around Shannon, the woman, and we used this goose egg and kind of, put it on her womb, and this is, the connected to Shannon and everything. We blessed it. We did all this stuff, asking the fertility to come in and bless the land and all this. And we went and processed out, and we put the egg in the nest. And then her husband, Rob, took a flaming brand, again, symbolism, yes, and came in with the spark of life, the fire, and plunged it into the nest and broke the egg, and then it started the fire. At Beltaine, we crowned them king and queen of the May. So this is one of the things that I do, and I actually pulled out a folder from some of my old, hold on, rituals. Here was a Beltane agenda, blessing the elements, casting the circle, calling elements, invoking the gods, invoking the guardians of the house. And then we would draw lots for King and Queen of the May in like the older things. But this one we actually dedicated um, Shannon and Rob to be King and Queen of the May. And let's see, we have blessing the Maypole and the earth, or drawing lots, crowning the king, queen and king, honoring the three sisters. That's the corn, rice, and beans, or corn, squash, and beans. Great rite of chalice and horn, the great rite of raising the Maypole dance, the bellfire, blessing the fields, and then the feast. Um, so they were king and queen that year. And we here's a one of the things that we did. Let me find it. Yes, the crowning. It would be, Hail, King of the May, you are Lord of the Bellfire. Today we do your bidding under the law and ask your blessing on this rite. Hail, my Lord, long live the King. And, under the law is and it harm none. Do as you will. So that day, the king and queen, we crowned them and we did their bidding. They behaved like royalty. They were, they would ask for whatever they wanted. We brought them things. It's pretty cool. It's really fun. And then the same thing with the queen. We crowned her the same thing. So they were king and queen that day. And then the following Beltane, I was in a new relationship with my now husband of 21 years. um, and it's funny because we had known each other for like 21 years before we got together. And we got together in the fall. We had been together since September. And so it was Beltane again. And Shannon and Rob were honored as the previous king and queen. And as they stood there holding their baby, holding their little boy, so tell me magic doesn't work. And what we were going to do is we were going to crown the people whose land it was. They were going to be king and queen of the May. But I wanted mine and my husband's union to be honored first. So I stepped in and said, we're going to be king and queen. And then the intention was when they handed us the crowns, we were handing them on and saying, no, you guys are really the king and queen. But they kind of did a stop on our heads on the way. So again, tell me magic doesn't work because by the next Beltane, I had my son in my arms. So yeah, interesting time. So that's a cautionary tale that if you step into that role on Beltane, you are invoking fertility and it's going to find a way. And let me tell you that my cycle rearranged itself. And I mean, everything rearranged itself. My son came in, and interestingly, my daughter knew I was pregnant before I did. My daughter, who was 4 at the time, asked me one night if I was going to have any other kids, and I said, "No, honey, Daddy and I are very happy, and I think this is our family, and this is the way it's going to be." And within a week, I had found out I was pregnant. So very, very interesting. Magic always works, just not exactly. So this is where, when you're in the solar festivals, when you're on the Sabbats, which Beltane is a Sabbat as opposed to an Esbat, which is a lunar rite. And you guys, Mary and Georgia probably know this, but people watching it afterwards might not. Esbats, we do work. Moon rituals, we work for the magic. We work and make the magic. On Sabbats, the magic is there. It is already happening. We step into it and take some for ourselves, and we direct it. And so, by having those crowns land on our heads, I was asking that fertility literally to fall on us, and it did. And, it was obviously the way it was supposed to happen, because my son heard me say, no, I probably don't want. And I mean, I was already pregnant when she asked me, but still, I had talked to my husband and said, no, we're good. And as much as I'd love to have another one, I'm not going to, because I was going to be 40. And my son said, oh, hell no, because I had already promised another child if you can wait for me, you have a way in. So he moved heaven and earth to come in. Um, and, you know, so very grateful that he did. But again, strong cautionary tale. Don't take these things lightly. They work. They really work. And when I'm doing readings for people, and I will see like the Nine of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles and the Three of Cups and the Ace of Wands and all these, and the Empress, and, um, all these pregnant, Queen of Pentacles, pregnancy and fertility cards showing up. And especially when they show up in clumps, I will say to them, if you are sexually active, or first of all, ask, do you have kids? If they say no, I say, this is fertility. This is big fertility. Make sure you're the one that directs where it lands or where you don't want it to land. So yes, cautionary tales. So, the beautiful rite of Beltaine and dancing the Maypole. I want to tell you one of my favorite recordings. There's a group called VAS, VAS. And the song is Astre. And I would have to look and see what the... interesting. Okay. I would look and have to see what album it's on. I think it's Sunyata. There's an album called Sunyata and an album called Offerings, but VAS is the name of the group, and it's, just vocalizing, of female vocalizing and rhythm and drums, and it's amazing. And to be able to put this really great pulsing music on and just dance without having to sing is a really, really, really cool thing. I want to tell you now about how to do this indoor maypole. So I showed you that picture, and if you will bear with me through this painful process, I will once again bring up the picture of it so I can show you what's going on without you being able to see underneath. And right monitor and face cam off and that off. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to see my cursor here. Like I said, this is a hollow cardboard tube from a carpet place. And what's really fun is I had this little Ford or Chevy Cavalier at the time, this little tiny car, and I had to put that pole, I put one of the back seats down so the pole was in the trunk and then coming out the front seat and out the window. So I felt like I was jousting on the way home. It was great. So what you don't see here, this table at the bottom is a patio table that has a hole in the middle of it for an umbrella. What I have in that hole is a sapling. My husband went out to the woods and found a sapling that was straight enough and narrow enough to go through that hole. And it probably came up about this high. That sapling goes down through the table, and under that table is a bucket. The sapling is in the bucket, and then there's split wood that is chucking it in there. Split wood that is jammed in that bucket, holding that sapling strong. So what we had to do was we built that, and then we had to tip this whole thing over on its side while I attached the crown, and while I put the outer sheath of the pole onto that sapling, and then I stuffed it full of newspaper so that the pole on top of the sapling itself was really wobbly. So I had to take newspaper and stuff it in between the pole and the sapling, or between the cardboard and the inner pole. I guess inner and outer poles would be a better way to put it. So you've got the inner pole with the space around it, and then the outer pole, and then I stuffed newspaper until it was really sturdy, till it felt sturdy. And then we attached the crown on top. And what I did with this one is I drilled holes in the top of the cardboard outer pole, and I threaded the wire through and wired on this crown. It was really involved. We used to get to the park shelter, like 3.5 hours before mother drum to set things up for a regular mother drum. And this one took every one of those 3 hours ahead of time. And then we tied all the ribbons on, and, as you see, I have them all taped to chairs. And people for this one, I think this was one where people had to register in advance, and they requested an element to dance with, and the ribbons were element colors and evenly spread out and all that kind of stuff. So that's how you do an indoor maypole. And the first one that we did was really sturdy. It was amazing. Um, okay, going back to face cam. And it, I showed you the picture of the weave. It was incredible. Um, Perfectly woven. Nobody tipped anything. And I mean, this is a maypole that can tip. The whole thing can go over. So you have to be really careful and in keeping the ribbons taut but not pulling. The next maypole that we did, I know we did two of them on that rainbow painted pole, and I took the ribbons off and we used them. I used them for gift wrapping and all kinds of stuff over the years. I think they're all gone now, but we used that ribbon. Um, then we did a lunar maypole because I did one on lunar Beltane. And lunar Beltane will be this upcoming full moon, which is, hold up, full moon is on the 7th, May 7th. And so that will be lunar Beltane. And for this one, I got a new pole from the carpet place, and we painted it midnight blue and splattered it with silver. So it was like a dark, starry night. And we had the crown with the blue flowers and the blue lights again. And the ribbons, I believe the ribbons were black, white, and red. They were triple goddess colors. So this one was a truly lunar, Dianic maypole. It was all about the goddess. And I remember also using the amulets of the goddess and making my own little ones and giving everybody got an amulet. And I'd have to look up in my books to see exactly what else happened, but that was the lunar maypole. The second one that we did with the rainbow one, or it might have been the lunar one, where we actually did tip the thing over. And I had to call out a halt and get everybody back and oriented and stabilized and going again. So, that's another thing with a maypole and with really any magical working is you're walking that line. You're doing this working and it raises energy. And at Beltane, holy shit, it raises energy fast. It's like woo, and everybody's all excited. But you have to walk that line and stay mindful. You have to stay grounded in your body, even as you're letting ecstasy take over. There's got to be something that keeps you grounded. So, that's the balance between the earth and sky there. Certainly, there are times when you're just dancing freely. When you're doing a maypole, you're doing a group working. And so everybody has to be mindful of everybody else, and you don't really have the leeway to just sort of take off and free dance. Otherwise, it's not going to weave right. You have you have prescribed steps that you have to go through in the dance in order for the weaving to happen. And you have to be mindful of that. But if you're doing a ritual where you're doing, drumming and dancing and just free dancing, have at it, man. You can go into ecstasy and let it all go and lose your body. And if you have cast a circle, and you're doing it in the space of a circle, you're doing it in a safe space. And so, people should be able to let go like that. Um, I know that a lot of people, well, we all have trauma. And I have encountered many women throughout the years of doing ritual who have trouble letting go because of their trauma and because of, you know, being traumatized to the point where you can't trust anymore. And so it's difficult to give yourself permission to let it all go. And this is where personal ritual practice is really important, because if you do your own practice, then you will have the experience of ritual and circle being the safest place that you could possibly be. Um, And so, if you go into a group ritual and you're doing free dancing, you should be able to drop in and experience that safety. And also, if you do work with a coven, it's ideal to have a group of people that really is intimate with each other and knows each other to the point where you do have that trust and safety. Because even in the space of a properly cast circle, you can have a wild card that doesn't have boundaries that can bring in, some energies that aren't going to be the best, or that can cause other things to come down the pike. Um, so I'm trying to think what else I should talk about. Georgia, Mary, anything else? Any questions? Are you still there? Hello? Are you there? Um, I know what else. Uh-oh. I got my government money. Yay. And I bought two new decks. One of them came yesterday. Um, One of them's coming today. The one that came yesterday is the Mists of Avalon Oracle. Uh, oh, you are so welcome. You're so welcome, Mary. I'm so glad you stopped by. I'm glad to know that I'm not just talking to myself all the time. So, okay, we'll see you. Blessed be Mary. Happy Beltane. Um, so anyway, I will have some new decks to review. I'm going to be uploading the Casting the Circle and Calling the Quarters videos, and as I'm sort of leveling off on the number of masks that I'm making, I'm thinking I'll condense it down into a couple of days a week, and and then I'll have more time to shoot more videos. Look at this. I put two tiny little bits on the charcoals, and they are just smoking. Have I used the Tarot of the Spirit? I don't think I have. What does that one look like? I'm going to Google it. Tarot of the Spirit. Ooh. Pamela and Joyce Akins. I'm assuming you have this deck. Um, well, Mary, just, drop a question and I'll answer it when you watch it later. So that's okay. And no, I haven't seen this deck, but I am always open to more decks. And I kind of have hit a thing of, getting myself a new one per month. And there has been a little more income coming in because I'm making masks. I do not charge nurses. My nurse friend that is my liaison and distributor picks them up before she goes in for her weekly shifts, and she has distributed them to two wings in her hospital. And oh, a cleaner Crowley. Interesting. I do have the Thoth deck. I haven't reviewed that yet. Um, Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to look into that more deeply. But as she comes and picks up masks and is taking them to the nurses, she came back next time and I'm giving her more masks and she's handing me like $50 bills and I'm going, wait, whoa, these aren't, selling. And she's like, it doesn't matter. They appreciate. And these nurses like opened their wallets. And then I had so many people they were actually like feeling guilty about just asking for masks and getting them. So people said, you need to set a price. So I set my price at $6 each. And that's because I haven't had to buy any materials. All of the materials I'm using have been donated so far. So, it's like if people want to pay me, that's fine. If they can't or don't, I don't care. It's, yes, my time is worth money, but I also have not gone to selling them outright because I got in this to help, not to start a small business. And I don't need to add running a little business to my time when don't have the time to run this business, which is the one I'm really trying to, foster here. And I will also tell you there's a donation button down below that I'm adding to all my videos. I'm going to retrofit the older ones, so there's a donation button. Of course, I won't be saying in the video that there's a donation button, but if you look, you'll find it. So still haven't structured Patreon or anything. I have an account, but haven't done anything with that. So, you know, baby steps. I mean, I'm at almost 425 subscribers, which I never imagined I would be back in September when I really started uploading a lot. So, anyhow, that's sort of where I'm headed. Okay, Georgia, what is the art is wonderful. The Thoth deck has always been opaque. Do you mean opaque as far as meaning, your understanding of it? That you don't hook into it? What do you mean by opaque is my question to you. Um, I like I've had the Thoth deck for a long time, and I like it because of keywords. I love keywords. And this Mists of Avalon deck, which of course I looked at last night, I will be doing that unboxing soon, has four keywords per card that kind of really thrilled me. And I haven't spent that much time with it, so I don't have much more to say about it right now. But anyway, what am I doing today for Beltaine? Today I'm going to go down and finish the crop of masks that I started yesterday. And interestingly, the majority of them are floral, are new fabrics that my husband chose. He's doing all the cutting for me, and he just happened to choose fabrics that are very floral. So I have these masks sitting on the thing, and it's like a whole big bunch of Beltaine flowers, and it's really pretty. Um, so I'm going to do that. We're going to clean because tomorrow my daughter and her partners are coming up, and our next door neighbors moved out, so their patio is empty, except for the table and chairs that they very considerately left. Nobody has been there for a couple of months, but they finally just moved out. We live in housing that is now mostly student housing. It was really different when we moved here. We've lived in this unit that we're in for coming on 22 years now. We're right on the woods, and it's gorgeous. And over the years, it's evolved from HUD housing into now mostly student housing because we're right next door to the university. And um, so students have been gone since college went online. The students haven't been here, and the people on one side of us are still occupying the place, but they haven't been there for the last 2 months. And then the people on the other side of us just moved out and have their patio furniture there. So my daughter and her partners are coming up. They're going to be on that patio. We'll be on our patio. If we're going to be wiping down doorknobs and everything, and we'll all have masks when we have to get closer to each other. But, they've been quarantining and they've been following lockdown protocols. One of her partners has had to work. But again, they're going to have their own patio and we will have ours. And it's going to be almost 70 degrees so we can be outside. And that's going to be our Beltane celebration, is being outside, cooking on the grill, and watching the leaves come out. So that will be, nobody here is looking for any kind of physical fertility, but monetary fertility, indeed, we will do that. And we'll go out and make some offerings to the woods. Down in the ravine, when you go down into the woods, there's a bowl at the bottom, and there's a big rock that comes out that's covered in moss, and that's the throne. So that's where I go down and make offerings. I haven't been down there in a long time because I'm hearing that the ticks are really, really, really bad this year, and I'm terrified. I've already had Lyme disease, and I don't want to have it again. Okay, so yes, my ex used it exclusively, but it never spoke to me. Okay. Um, yeah, Georgia, there's there's a thing that sometimes in Mother Drum I would get this sense that we all made an agreement. Everybody that was there made an agreement in our previous lives to meet up again at a certain time in a certain place to recall this. And I have to tell you, although it's going to make me cry because even just thinking of it has brought it up. I had a dream the night before last, and I went to sleep with headphones on and Kelly Howell's astral projection recording. And I was dreaming, this was a morning dream. First of all, there were people out everywhere, like big crowds of people. So it was shocking because, we're not used to this. And it's like, my God, everybody's out. And everybody was out shopping. And I saw like lines of people with full shopping carts going out of the stores because they were waiting for their turn to go in and check out by themselves. And, distance was there, but just people everywhere. And this sense of holiday. And I remember thinking, what are they getting ready for? Because Easter was a couple of weeks ago. And, realizing that not everybody celebrates Beltane, but it was this mass feeling of holiday and celebration. And then it was nighttime. And I remember somebody's saying, look, they got it to work. They got it to work. And I looked up in the sky, and in the middle of the sky, there was like this sparkle, this silver and gray sparkling and crackling. And it like burst. And it was a mandala of the goddess. And I saw a pomegranate, and I saw a yoni, and I saw her hair, and it just spread across the sky. And then everybody, there was like this mass cheer that went up. I mean, people were like screaming in ecstasy and joy as the goddess spread across the sky. So I'm such a mush ball. And, that's what tells me that I'm connected is, when it hits like that, it's coming from spirit. There's no doubt about it. I live in a former Section 8 cooperative now. Good, wow, that's amazing. I really am going to look at getting a Discord account together so we can do some voice chats. I mean, I've looked into Twitch stream and all kinds of stuff, but I'm sort of stuck on YouTube. I would love to expand things across platforms, and obviously I'm just still crawling with baby steps on YouTube. So, but Georgia, that's absolutely fascinating. I mean, I know that I tend to polarize people, being a Plutonian person, and people either love me or they hate me. And the ones that love me, we really vibe. There's that deep sense of connection, and this is where too, I don't do small talk. I have a really hard time just doing small talk with people that I don't feel that connection with. But when you feel the connection, it's like when the floodgates open, blah, 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 and you talk all night. So anyway, that I think is my Beltaine blessing, is that image of just the goddess almost like written in stars, because it was just sparkling silvery gray and this beautiful image spreading across the sky, almost like fireworks, and this collective cry of joy, rather than the cry of despair that's been going up. It's been a collective cry of despair across the globe. And so I'm going to focus on that collective cry of joy. And that will be my Beltaine prayer and my Beltaine blessing for you. And I pray that you are all healthy and that you are all safe, and that we can move forward slowly and safely, reclaiming the vital parts of our lives, even as we let the parts that are superfluous and the parts that are outworn fall away. Those can go to compost. So that's my blessing. Thank you, Georgia and Mary, for being here for me. And thank you, everybody that is watching in the future. Feel free to click the donation button and like and subscribe. And I will see you in my unboxing videos and my ritual videos. And we will meet and know and love them again. So mote it be. Blessed be everybody. This is